Hi, this is Anthony, and I'm going to be presenting about the color test for water hydration. First off, what are we testing? Well, this is going to be a test of the color of your urine as an indicator of the hydration levels. We should all know that urine is normally a yellowish color, and the chemical that actually causes this color is a dye called urochrome. I'll go into more detail about this later, but firstly, we run into a problem about units. Because this is a test for color, there's no real units that are conventionally used for colors. We could theoretically test for the concentration of the urochrome dye or the wavelength of the urine through a colorimeter, but that's very unconventional. So in general, no units for the color test. So about urochrome. Urochrome is actually created through the degradation of hemoglobin. A second group will go into this later, but hemoglobin is a protein in the body that transports oxygen. This is primarily found in red blood cells, and your red blood cells in your body are constantly dying and being created. So when a red blood cell dies, it's going to release its hemoglobin. And this is then degraded into heme. And through a bunch of other chemical processes, it's then degraded into all of these compounds. And then if it enters the kidneys through the bloodstream, it's then turned into urobilinogen, which is another word for urochrome. And this is the dye, which will make your urine yellow. So, like I mentioned earlier, we should all be familiar that the normal color of urine is a yellowish color. Because this is going to be a test for water hydration levels, we're not super concerned with the other colors down here. But if your urine is an abnormal color that's not particularly yellow, that should be a concern, and that could be an indicator of other biological conditions. However, if it's still within the yellow range, it can either be too clear or too dark. If it's too clear, this indicates that the concentration of the dye in your urine is too low, which means there's a lot of water in the urine. This could indicate that you're overhydrated. If the urine is too dark, this indicates that there's a very high concentration of urochrome, and this means that you could be dehydrated. So how does your body actually maintain this level of hydration? Well, the good news is you guys already know all about that because it's the kidneys. Um, really, this is just a recap because you've learned most of this already, but if you're dehydrated, your brain is going to signal the kidneys to increase the aquaporins in your nephrons. And these aquaporins are going to reabsorb water, which will try to keep your blood water levels up. And this will then decrease the water that's sent into your urine, which is going to increase the concentration of the dye and make the color darker. The inverse is also true for being overhydrated. If you're too hydrated, your kidneys are going to remove aquaporins, which will reduce water reabsorption. And then there's going to be more water in the urine, and that's going to make the concentration of urochrome lower and make the color lighter, which is an indicator of overhydration. So how reliable is this urine test by color? Well, research has found that it's about 85% reliable for detecting overhydration and dehydration. But because it's such a subjective test, it's pretty much as reliable as you eyeballing the color next to the scale is. What happens if you find that you might be dehydrated or overhydrated? Well, if you're concerned and you go to a doctor, they can do a series of blood tests because hydration levels is also related to blood volume, which is then related to the concentration of salts in the blood. They can test for these salts and diagnose you with either hyper, which is too much water, or hypo, which is too little hydration. If you're diagnosed with one of these, the treatments usually depend on the cause for the condition. So for example, if you're hypohydrated because of, say, diarrhea, then they could prescribe pills that contain water and salts to replenish these in your body. If you're hyperhydrated, they'll usually recommend that you cut down on fluid intake and also potentially go through medications or remove medications that could be causing the condition. Thank you.